Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast presented by Rosters.com. It's September, it's the 27th, it's 2016. We have 15 games to talk about tonight. It's an interesting slate after not having a lot of pitching for the last few days. We have a ton of pitching tonight, so there's a ton to talk about, and we're bringing in the cash game guy. Derek, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Should I mention that I'm doing good because we're almost up 3-1 on you guys now, or should I just sweep that under the rug?
It's 3-1. We're not coming back tonight.
All right. So I'm a little, I don't know, wary of you calling me up to be on the show. Like, the timing of this is very suspect, Stevie. Like, I feel like you're trying to get a hidden advantage tomorrow night because you don't want to go down 4-1.
No, not at all. I enjoy having you on the podcast. I've enjoyed it all year. So getting down here the last last couple weeks, I just want to continue to do podcasts with the guys that I like doing podcasts with.
Well, I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun the whole year.
Yeah, man. We can say all the bad things we want to say. I have nothing bad to say about you and your game and your analyst. I do have a lot to talk about as far as talking crap to you, but I'll save that for Twitter when we come back and win tomorrow night.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I think people see us on Twitter and they should realize it's all in good fun. Obviously, I have a lot of respect for you too, and I love doing this with you.
Yeah, I want to do it in a larger sample size next year. Have a tournament guy, whether it be Siege or somebody else join me. Have the cash game guy. I'll let you pick somebody, and we'll like make a series like out of it with the season next year. I think it'd be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun for the podcast, and the listeners are loving it, man. They're loving it on Twitter. So, we'll talk about it more next year, but it's definitely something that I want to do. I want to try to talk Dean into doing something with football so I can absolutely destroy him.
Yeah, yeah, I'd be into it for baseball next year. That'd be a lot of fun.
All right, we got some baseball to talk about. Before we get there, though, I mentioned just a second ago the podcast is sponsored by our friends over at Rosters.com. If you guys haven't checked them out, make sure you head on over there, check them out. Use promo code GRINDERS. That way you get incentives here at Roto Grinders for free for a year for Rosters. Also, I mentioned it yesterday. They're giving away an all-expense-paid trip for two to the Super Bowl. All you have to do is enter $100 worth of NFL games for the entire week. That gets you one championship entry ticket. Also, if you cash in the kickoff GPP, the $25 tournament over on Rosters, you'll also receive a ticket. So throw in 4 entries into that tournament, and if you cash 1 or 2 or 3, you can get some tickets into this championship event, which will be in Week 7. And the winner of that is going to get all expenses paid trip to the Super Bowl. Nothing like trying to win a trip to the Super Bowl. I know you're a baseball guy, but if you had an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, I'm sure you'd go in a heartbeat.
Oh, I'd be all over that.
All right, let's talk some baseball here. That's what we're here to do, and we're going to start with Arizona at Washington. Matt Scherzer against Matt Koch. I guess that's how he pronounces his name. We were trying to talk about it before the show, and I don't want to disrespect him too much, so I'll call him the Coach.
All right, I think that's fair, and honestly, that's probably the nicest thing we're going to wind up saying about him.
Yeah, don't pitch him. That's easy, right?
That's very easy. He's one of the weaker guys on the slate. Do not pitch Matt Koch today.
Scherzer, Sale, both these guys extremely expensive today. Both in excellent matchups. Man, Scherzer against Arizona, right-handed heavy team. We look at Scherzer's number against righties this season. His WOBA was under 200. His strikeout rate's almost 38%. You want to talk about massive upside? Max Scherzer has a massive upside in this game.
He really does. I mean, the Diamondbacks strike out so much. They're on the road. They're so right-handed. Like, the upside here is massive. My concern with Scherzer today, because for me it comes down to Scherzer and Chris Sale as the SP1, and it's not close between anyone else. My concern with Scherzer is that the Nationals have this division locked up, and they're not going to let him go that deep into the game today.
Yeah, that's definitely something I think everybody should be worried about. The thing is, though, like, they actually do have a little bit to play for. They're battling for that second record between them and the Dodgers. So, like, you want home field. That's kind of important.
I guess that's a valid point. I guess I saw them yesterday with Tanner Roark, and granted, he struggled, which I'm sure had a lot to do with it, but he only threw 70 pitches and went 4 innings. So I can see the argument for why they'd want to play for that.
He got a little shelled. I think that was a little different. Like,
that definitely played into it.
So, yeah, they're so expensive. Like, if you're playing on DraftKings or FanDuel, you're probably going to want one of these guys in your cash lineups. It's just one of those things. I'm leaning more towards Scherzer on DraftKings and Sale on FanDuel, but I think you can't go wrong with either one of these guys.
I'm with you.
Let's talk bats in this game. Daniel Murphy, Bryce Harper, Wilson Ramos is the big news here. MRI Monday, or MRI will be scheduled for Tuesday. I don't expect him to play. It didn't look good. It really didn't look good. So Wilson Ramos might be out of the lineup here.
Yeah, and I mean, if Ramos is out, if Harper's out, if Murphy's out, this is going to be kind of a watered-down Nationals offense. So as much as I'm not a fan of Coach, it's going to depend what this lineup looks like to see just how much interest I actually have in the Nationals.
Well, you want Trey Turner, but you don't want to pay $5,500 on DraftKings for him.
Absolutely not. I will not be doing that.
Yeah, it's just these guys are priced so high. Maybe some value with Steven Drew or Ryan Zimmerman if they draw decent lineup spots today. It's kind of where I would be at.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'd be at too. It looks like Drew's price has actually gone up a little bit. He's been a good punt the past few days, but he's getting a little expensive. Espinosa's still reasonable enough. I think a guy like Anthony Rendon or Jason Worth are reasonable enough, but I'm not going to force any exposure here, especially if the big bats that are going to help drive in the runs and help turn the lineup over aren't actually playing.
Yeah, Steven Drew, pretty cheap on FanDuel and rosters, so I don't hate him over there. That's kind of where I would probably end at with my Steven Drew exposure. FanDuel or DraftKings, unless he's batting like second or third, which I could actually see that in this lineup tomorrow.
It's possible tomorrow, but I think you're right that at 3,500, that's kind of what you would need to see from Drew for him to really be too viable.
Oh, buddy, Boston, New York, and this is in Yankee Stadium. David Price, Luis Cisa. I think this is Ortiz's last series against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium.
Yes, it is, and he is an absolute must-play today.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think he's an excellent play. It depends if we can find that cheap second pitcher because he's priced up everywhere.
Yeah, he's super expensive. There is a cheap second pitcher that I really like, but I think you sacrifice whatever you need to get Ortiz today. It's too good of a matchup. He's the best left-handed power hitter in baseball. It's the best park in baseball for lefty power. It's Luis Cisa. He's going to have a platoon of Andes. He's not a very good pitcher. Like, Ortiz is just such a good play today in my mind that he has to be in your cash game lineups.
And nobody would have expected Ortiz to hit 321 with 37 home runs and 124 RBIs this year on his way out. Like, doesn't shock me. I'm an Ortiz believer. So what's your thoughts here on David Price?
So I like Price today for GPPs. Like, he's fine on a different day. He might be one of the guys that you want to roster. But on a day when Scherzer and Sale are in such elite spots, he's just not a cash game consideration at all.
I will say, I'm pulling up the box scores real quick. Is that Rangers game over yet? Yeah, they lost to the Brewers 8-3. So it's still the Boston Red Sox are half a game up on Texas for best record in the American League. This game means something for the Red Sox. So I don't hate Price here.
No, I don't dislike Price at all. I mean, it's a pretty good matchup. There's, the Yankees lineup can be watered down a little bit. They're dealing with some injuries. They have more strikeouts in the lineup than they used to. So I think this is, I think this could be a good, I think this could be a pretty good GPP option.
Yeah, well, it depends on the lineup. Like, if we see that same lineup they rolled out against Happ, where we had Ellsbury and Gardner batting in the 1-2, like, Price is def to lefties. Like, you don't want left-handed bats against him. Gary Sanchez, I know that's going to be a hot topic throughout the day. Like, he has the power. He has the upside. Nobody's saying that, but, like, he's still striking out 31% of the time against left-handed pitching. So, like, he is more of a tournament play for me on this slate, and I probably won't have any exposure.
Yeah. The one other thing I think that would be really interesting to look for Price here is Christian Vasquez came back this weekend. Vasquez is a really good defensive catcher, and if he happens to be catching for Price today, that would be a very good thing for him.
Yeah, it doesn't suck that the Red Sox have won like 11 games in a row. Red Sox homer plug there. Outside of Ortiz, any other bats that you like in this game?
I mean, yeah, you're gonna like Mookie Betts. You're not gonna pay 5,600 for him on DraftKings. Sanchez, like you said, is going to have the GPP upside. You're not paying 4,700 for him against Price. Really, Ortiz is kind of the one guy that I have lots and lots of interest here in, and then everyone else is kind of eh.
I know you won't like this guy because he bats ninth, but I don't mind the Nintendo
Yep.
3K. Like, it's still Boston on the road. There's a good chance he's still going to get his 4 at-bats in this game.
Yeah, he would actually be the one other guy that I might have interest in because he is cheap. Because even though he's a ninth spot hitter, he's not a ninth spot hitter in terms of talent. He's much more talented than that. And so a guy like that, you can sometimes get away with rostering even in a cash game, especially on a day like today where you're going to have to save so much money.
Yes, play the Nintendo. Let's move it on. Chicago and Pittsburgh. This game's in Pittsburgh. It's John Lackey. It's Ryan Vogelsong. I mentioned it yesterday on the podcast. I'm sure you'll have the same kind of thoughts. There's no way I'm pitching a Cubs pitcher for the rest of the season. They've locked up best record. They've locked up home field advantage. Like, they're the best team in baseball. There's no doubt about it. And I just don't expect them to pitch these pitchers deep into games.
Yeah, zero chance. I want nothing to do with Lackey today. At most, he's going 6 innings, if that, and that's not even close to enough on a day with so much pitching in play.
Ryan Vogelsong on the other side, like, Vogelsong's been really good or really bad. So you're not playing him, and you're going to want to stack against him.
Yeah, Vogelsong is not good at all.
If Chris Coughlin's in the lineup again, he gets a good lineup spot, only 3,100 on DraftKings. He'd be another guy. Like, I had him in my lineup, and I let Siege talk me in on Chad Cole. We're not going to get into that, but Chris Coughlin, 3,100. I think that he's definitely in play here.
Yeah, if he's gets in the lineup again today, if he's leading off, he would definitely be in play. I would think he's probably not going to be in there again today, but you never know.
Well, they got to give Zobrist. They gave Zobrist a break yesterday. Maybe Baez needs a break today. Maybe Chris Bryant needs a day off. Like,
I guess that's possible. There's definitely some scenarios where he could be in there.
Pay attention to the lineups. That's definitely something you want to do here just for the rest of the season. Josh Bell, 2,500 against Lackey. I have interest there because I just don't expect it to be Lackey more than 5 or 6 innings.
I think that's a good point. Bell and Pirates in general, or hitters in general, I have a hard time with in PNC Park because it is, it's a pitcher's park, but it's a nice price for Bell.
All right. I think that's all the time we need to spend on that game. It's just not a lot of meaning. This next game, though, this game means a lot. This is a series that you're going to want to target for bats. You're going to want to target because this is going to be one of the hardest, tough playing series all weekend or all week. It's Baltimore at Toronto, Gausman against Aaron Sanchez. These two teams are fighting for a wild card spot. Blue Jays are up by 1.5 games right now, or a game now. They lost to the Yankees, so it's a game now. They're a game up on Baltimore, 2 games up on Detroit, and depending on who wins the Seattle game, there'll be 3 games up on those guys. But you're going to want to target this game. There's going to be a lot of fantasy goodness in this game.
See, I almost think this is one of those games where I don't want the pitchers, and I don't really love the hitters either, at least from a cash game standpoint. I think or at least I thought they could be sneaky for GPPs because these are 2 good pitchers, but maybe if you're thinking about them, then maybe they're not that sneaky.
Well, I'd like to consider myself sharp, so who knows? But I don't know if I like the pitchers here. If I was going to pitch a pitcher here, it'd probably be Sanchez. He just doesn't give up a lot of home runs to righties. So if Baltimore runs at that right-handed heavy lineup that only has Alvarez and Chris Davis in it, like, I'd have interest in Sanchez. But the problem is he still has to face Alvarez and Chris Davis.
Yeah, and he doesn't come with as many strikeouts as Gausman. I would probably take him first, but I would have pretty minimal interest in both of these guys.
Yeah, Gausman's a guy that he gives up a lot of hard contact to righties and gives up a lot of home runs to the righties. Going to face a lot of righties. Going to face some hot righties here, like E5 and Joey Bats a lot in this game.
Yeah, I think they're fine. I don't love them. Like, I don't see Toronto being like, I don't know, like, I don't see them being far and away the best option today. I think they're probably top 5, in terms of offense, and I think they're reasonably priced. So I think they're fine, but I'm not in love with them. Like Gausman's a good pitcher. He'll give up his home runs, but he's a good pitcher.
I'll see. We see this game a little bit differently. That's good for Team Crazy over here.
You know what? I feel like it's good for Team Cash.
Yeah, these guys are so pricey that we probably won't be playing any of these guys against you tomorrow. But if I was, it would be Joey Bats in E5. Let's move on. Mets at Miami taking on the Marlins. Noah Syndergaard, Tom Kohler. If you watch the pregame ceremonies, you watch the beginning of the game. Like, there's no way you made it through it with no tears. I'll just say that. I know I'm a grown man and I was balling.
Yeah, I didn't watch, but I'm sure I would have been right there with you.
Yeah, D. Gordon hit a home run and couldn't even make it to second base before he started balling. So, like, all that's out the window now. Expect this game to be – I don't expect any of the Marlins games for the rest of the season to be normal, but they do have a matchup here with Syndergaard. This is not a spot that you want to necessarily target Miami bats.
The one exception I would say is D. Gordon, especially on FanDuel where he's still really cheap. Syndergaard is terrible with preventing steals. Darno is really bad with them. So is Rene Rivera. So I think Gordon, for a cheap price at a second base position, is a good punt over on FanDuel or GPP play anywhere.
Yeah, he's been running a lot lately too. He has 4 stolen bases in the last 2 games.
Yeah, and this is a really good matchup for it. If he gets on, I expect him to be going.
Yeah, and it's priced on DraftKings so much more.
Yeah, you can't pay the DraftKings price, not in cash games at least, not on DraftKings.
Thoughts on Tom Kohler here?
I don't think Tom Kohler is as bad a pitcher as most people think he is, but I also don't think he's a good pitcher. I would have some interest in some Mets bats probably.
Yeah, but which ones? That's my issue. Like, I have a little interest in Cespedes, but that's about it.
That's the guy that I would have the interest in. He's 4,200 on DraftKings. That seems too cheap. Kohler has a little bit of a reverse platoon split. And I think what's interesting about this game, for the past, I don't know, couple months now, when the roof is closed in Miami, it used to mean bad things for hitters because it was hot everywhere else and the game was at a disadvantage. Now that temperatures are so low, a closed roof here in Miami is actually a little bit of an advantage to hitters relative to all the other games. So I think it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, just bats in this game, I just don't know what to do with them. I think it's pretty much a stay away game for me. So many good pitching. I just don't know if I'm going to take Syndergaard against an emotional Marlins team.
No, I definitely wouldn't take Syndergaard. In a GPP, I'm completely fine with it, but he's not Sale or Scherzer level.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just don't know if I could do it here. Cleveland at Detroit, Justin Verlander, Mike Clevinger. Cleveland clinched yesterday behind Kluber. You always see weird lineups after teams clinch. I say it, we talked about it on the podcast yesterday, so pay attention to this lineup. And if it's a watered-down lineup, like, this is a must-win game for Detroit. They're in must-win territory now. They're 2 games behind Baltimore and Toronto. So, yeah, like, if it's a watered-down lineup, man, Justin Verlander is going to just be a massive play here.
Yeah, I could see that depending on the lineup. I mean, after they clinch, they tend to party, the regulars especially, and then they're hungover or whatever, and they sit out the next day. So if that's the case, then I could see Verlander being a good play. No matter what the lineup is, though, unless, like, everyone is sitting out, I would have a hard time putting him in the same category, though, as Scherzer and Sale.
No, I agree with that. But if we don't see, like, Jose Ramirez, Carlos Santana, Napoli, Kipnis, if they give all these guys a day off, I'm loading up on Verlander.
Can we just pay attention for 1 second to how when you started to list the good Indians batters, the first guy you listed was Jose Ramirez?
Listen, it's a thing, okay? I have a man crush.
Thing.
He's made me so much money this year. Nobody plays him except for me.
No, I don't know if I've played him even once, but your love for Jose Ramirez is well documented.
Yeah, he's hitting 347 at home. I'll just continue to play him at home and take his 400 on base percentage.
Well, if he's not in there today, then Justin Verlander's aces.
No, if they sit these guys, man, it's a spot to really pay attention when the lineups come out. I can see it. I really can.
No, I think you're right. I'm going to be very interested to see what this lineup looks like.
If I can save like $3 or $4 grand on a pitcher, And they get to face Mike Clevenger. Like, Mike Clevenger's not good at baseball.
No, he's really not very good.
And we're looking at a guy that gives up a lot of home runs to righties and faces a lot of righties here. I think Detroit stack is definitely interesting.
I think a Detroit stack could be interesting. They're not one of my favorites. I think there's some better spots, but they're up there.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be tough to say which Cleveland bats are going to be in there, and it's also going to be tough to even pick on Verlander with any of these Cleveland bats.
Yeah, especially if the lineup is watered down at all. Like they're not going to project for very many runs. They're not going to get many at bats, even the guys who, in an individual sense, look good. So I would have a hard time playing any Cleveland bats against Verlander tomorrow.
All right, let's move on. Philly at Atlanta. Oh, what a series. Philadelphia and Atlanta. That's just so much fun. Julio Teheran, Jared Eichhoff. Man, like Teheran, this is – if there was ever a spot to start him, this would be the spot, right?
This would be the spot. And if there weren't a billion pitchers going today, he'd be a guy I'd be considering a lot more.
Like 9,500 against Philly on Monday's slate, we would have plugged him in.
Oh, he would have been a must play. He would have been 90% owned, I would think, and anyone who didn't play him would have lost.
Ugh. Yeah, like I just don't see myself paying 95 or 91 for Eichhoff for Teheran, and I just don't like any of the bats outside of Freeman. Like, this game is just like, I hate to say it, but it's a 15-game slate. I just don't see myself getting exposure to this game outside of Freeman.
Yeah, the exposure that I will probably get, and again, I like Teheran, I really do today, but when you're spending $14K on Sale or Scherzer, you can't spend close to 10 for Teheran, even though he is a value. The guy that I would have exposure to here, though, is Roman Quinn. Only 2,500. Teheran's not necessarily a guy you can steal on, but Tyler Flowers definitely is. And so for that cheap price with some stolen base upside, you're going to need to save money in some places. So Quinn's a guy that I'm looking at for that.
Yeah, my Jose Ramirez man crush is getting close to your Quinn crush.
I am a big fan of Quinn.
I'm a fan of his price today, that's for sure. Like, I was hoping Malik Smith would be cheaper if he was in the lineup, but he's not, and he's expensive, and I think we can just move on.
I'm fine moving on.
Minnesota at Kansas City taking on the Royals. Ian Kennedy against Jose Barreros. Little interest in Ian Kennedy here, I can't lie.
Yeah, I would have a little interest here too. Again, not a lot. It's kind of like a little bit below Julio Teheran level interest, which is to say he's really not on my radar at all for cash games. But on another day, he definitely would be.
Yeah, decent strikeout rates this year. He's just struggled with home runs. Luckily, he's in a big ballpark. And luckily, he's facing a Minnesota Twins team that is just – they're awful.
See, everyone says they're awful. Depending on the lineup, I think they're a lot better than people give them credit for. But
I think they're better when they're healthy. They're just not healthy.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it.
Like if Sano's in there and stuff like that, like we see the normal Twins lineup, yeah, I'd have interest, but they're dealing with so many injuries. Yeah, I think Sano's actually back, isn't he?
He is back. He actually, I think, hit a home run a couple days ago, but he's not playing every day, I don't think.
That just tells me he's not healthy.
Exactly. Or they don't want to push him since they have nothing to play for and the season's almost over.
I worry about this team. Obviously, one guy we don't ever worry about is Dozier. He's definitely in play here in a tournament. 42 home runs for Brian Dozier. Like, what things you thought you'd never say at the end of the year?
Honestly, I'm not shocked by it. I've always been a big Dozier fan. I was recommending him like all the time at the start of the year before we found out that he wasn't completely healthy, and everyone was like, Brian Dozier sucks. Don't play that Brian Dozier. And I'm like, guys, he's talented. He has good power. And lo and behold, Brian Dozier has 42 home runs. I'm surprised he got to them given the slow start he got off to, but he's always had massive power.
I could see like 30 home runs. 42 home runs for Brian Dozier, I still think is a reach.
I mean, no one ever really thought he'd get to 42, but over 30, I thought he was pretty much a lock for.
Jose Barreros is not pitching well in the bigs. Like this guy, one of these minor league guys that, hey, this guy's a big prospect. He has a big arm and just hasn't been able to put it together now.
No, he really hasn't. It's kind of frustrating because you watch him and you're like, this guy has a future. This guy has good stuff, and he just falls apart.
Yeah, anytime we see a whip near 2, it's just he's struggling.
Yeah.
But where do we pick on him? Like, that's the issue. Like, I like Salvador Perez a lot. I think he's a really solid play in this matchup.
Salvi is the only Royal I think I'd have interest in. He's pretty much the only Royal I've had interest in all year because he's always well priced. He's actually a little more expensive than he used to be, but he's still fine today in this matchup. He plays a shallow position, and he actually has power upside. Like, who wants to pay $3,700 for Alcides Escobar for a single and a run? Like, I don't.
How is Bieros or what?
Barrios, I think.
Oh man, it's been a long day. How is he with steals? Because if he's bad at holding on runners, like Jared Dyson at the top of that order would be interesting.
He's a little above average. He's not a guy that's great at it, but he's not necessarily an exploitable guy either.
And not an above average guy. You're not telling me he's excellent. I think Jared Dyson could be an interesting tournament play.
What's his price?
3,900, not terrible.
Not terrible. Okay, I can maybe see it.
2 to 3 stolen base upside there.
Yeah, I mean, a guy that fast, he'll steal on anyone sometimes, but obviously you prefer a guy who is easy to steal on.
For sure. Minnesota side, outside of Dozier, any interest here?
No, not really.
Yeah, just looking through like pricing real quick, and I like Polanco much more against lefties, but I'm gonna stay away.
Yeah, Polanco's fine at 3K. His price is finally back down a little bit, so I don't mind him, but that would be it.
Heading to Texas, on a trip to Texas. We're going to have the Brewers and the Rangers, and it did not shock me that this game had one of the highest scoring totals. Expect some runs to be scored here.
Yeah, I think expect some runs to be scored here, but I think temper expectations a little bit. It didn't surprise me yesterday that Texas was the team that went under their total because the temperatures here, they've been 90 all year. They're low 70s now. Like, there's a big difference there. And so, yeah, it's still Texas. These are bad pitchers. Runs are going to be scored. But I don't think it's going to be the crazy kind of Texas games that we've seen at times this year. It's going to sound crazy. I think A.J. Griffin is in play for GPPs at this price.
I don't think he's a bad play. When A.J. Griffin struggles, it's lefties, and we're looking at a Brewers team that usually rolls out 6 to 7 righties.
Yeah, they strike out a lot. Like I said, the temperatures are low. I don't dislike Griffin at all.
Jimmy Nelson on the other side, though, he struggles with lefties, and he's going to see a ton of lefties in this lineup. Not in play for me.
Yeah, definitely not in play for me either.
Let's talk bats. On the Milwaukee side, nothing outside of Jonathan VR that I like.
Yep, VR is the guy that I like, and I like him quite a bit today. He's well priced. I like that Griffin is an extreme fly ball guy. VR is an extreme ground ball guy. That's going to give him an advantage. And I think there's maybe some sneaky stolen base upside here. Like, Griffin doesn't really allow a lot of them. Lucroy has been throwing out a lot more runners this year than he used to. But runners still like to test him. And so if VR decides he wants to, he's fast enough that he's going to swipe the base.
And the crazy thing about VR is, like, A.J. Griffin in 55 innings this year has given up 18 home runs to lefties.
Wow.
I didn't realize it was that high either. But
he's an extreme fly ball guy. I mean, I guess it shouldn't be too surprising. But, yeah.
Almost a 3 home run per 9 against lefties. That's insane. Looking at the other side here, Texas bats, like, not really getting a value on any of these guys, but Odor, I know he's cold, but only 4K here seems really cheap.
That's a nice price for Odor. The guy that always sticks out to me is Carlos Gomez. Like, I think he's most days the best play on the Rangers, and he's always one of the more inexpensive ones. Like, he's a better play than Beltran. He's a better play than Mazzara. He's usually a better play than Desmond. He leads off. He gets extra at-bats. He steals bases, which most of those guys don't do. And he's always the cheapest one. And he keeps hitting. So, like, I want lots of Gomez today.
All right, so you're the cash game guy. We have a guy in Mitch Moreland who is just extremely cold. I think it's been 3 days since he's had a hit. He's 2,700 on DraftKings today. Does that pique your interest at all?
If David Ortiz wasn't in play, it would, because Moreland's a guy who he has a wide platoon split. He hits righties well in general, maybe not lately. Nelson has a wide platoon split. He struggles against lefties. It sets up nicely for him, and he's really cheap. I'm not fading David Ortiz for him, though.
I like the price a lot for him. That's kind of where I'm at with him. I think the price is really solid.
It's a great price.
All right, moving out. Seattle at Houston. These we talk about rankings and standings throughout the podcast today, and these two teams are battling. The game's still going on tonight, so we don't know where they're going to be at standings wise, but it's going to be a game either way that they're going to be behind Detroit and 2 games behind Baltimore. So, this series means a lot between these two teams.
Yeah, it does.
Felix Hernandez, Michael Fiers. Felix has been a guy that's been interesting lately. 3 bad starts in his last 5 games, and one of those is against Houston, and it was very recently. 4 1/3, 5 earned runs, 2 home runs, only 3 strikeouts, and that game was at home in Seattle. Now he's going to a much friendlier ballpark than Safeco.
Yeah, I played him in that game, and I was not happy about that outcome.
Yeah, do you have any interest in either one of these guys?
I have some interest in Felix as a GPP guy, kind of in the same range as like Tehran, Kennedy type of thing. Because, yes, it's a park downgrade, but the roof's going to be closed. And when that's the case, this does tend to play more as a pitcher's park than it does as a hitter's park. Not as much as Safeco. And it's still, fairly favorable for home runs, but it's a good park for strikeouts. It does other things. And Houston is a team that's susceptible to striking out at times. So Felix is interesting to me. I don't love him, but he's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be in the Felix camp today. Michael Fiers, on the other hand, gives up a lot of hard contact. So obviously I don't want him against a hard-hitting Seattle team.
No, very little Fiers interest for me today.
Let's talk bats here. We'll start with Seattle. Anything pique your interest?
Not really. There's not a lot of bargains that you're going to get on the Seattle side here. If anything, I'd probably grab a cheap guy from the Houston side.
Yeah, even like our normal punts, like Seth Smith and stuff, they're priced up in this game. Like, nothing really piques my interest. I do think there'll be runs scored in this game, but I don't see where you're getting any value.
Yeah, I guess you could punt with Zunino in a GPP if you want. It's a pretty good park for righty power. Fiers is a fly ball guy who gives up home runs. Like, Zunino is interesting enough. He has some power upside.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Houston side, anything pique your interest?
The only thing that would really pique my interest here would be it'd be Yulieski Gurriel. He hasn't done much in a week and a half or 2 weeks, but he's still really talented. They still give him a good spot in the order. He's still 2,600. So on a day where you're going to have to be pinching pennies, I don't hate him against Felix.
I should have just said his name for you. I knew you were going to talk about him. So
you have to. He's too cheap. He's an above average hitter who is perpetually barely above minimum price.
Yeah, I can get behind it. Tampa at Chicago taking on the White Sox. We have Alex Cobb, Chris Sale. Alex Cobb, a guy that I just don't think you should be interested in. I don't think he's ready to be back, and I think they're just trying to log him some innings before next year.
That's kind of my impression, too. I'm a big fan of a healthy Alex Cobb. I don't think that's what we're getting right now.
I don't even know if it's healthy. If he could be healthy, I just don't know if it's – I just don't think he's ready. It takes a little while to get back into game shape.
That's more what I meant. It's not like I think he's pitching hurt or anything. It's just, he's coming back from Tommy John surgery. And like you said, there's a recovery period.
Chris Sale on the other side, though, ever since the All-Star break, and I know it sounds crazy, but trading Brandon Guyer, and who was the other one? Man, they had another right-handed. Pierce.
Pierce, yeah.
Ever since they traded Guyer and Pierce's team has fallen apart against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, they do not project well at all against left-handed pitching. They strike out. They don't score a lot of runs. I think Sale is unless I'm given some reason to think that Scherzer is going to have no limitations today, I think Sale is the guy.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Kind of showcasing him here towards the end of the year, right?
I mean,
And
I
he
would
is
have to
coming off
think.
of a start where he just got absolutely shelled by Philadelphia.
Oh my God, that's right, he did. That was so tilting. That was in our series too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's when you got your Salvador Perez home
Oh,
run in the ninth inning. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that was a clutch call.
yeah, 2-2. Bats in this game. Honestly, as much as I want to pick on Cobb, the only way I'm going to pick on him was a stack.
Yeah, that would be my only way I'd want to do it either. I don't see any one-offs that I like on either side here, really.
All right, let's talk about Cincinnati and St. Louis. Adam Wainwright and Stevenson. Adam Wainwright and Robert Stevenson. Oh man.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with either of these guys. Stevenson, I just think is awful at this point. Like he's a prospect, he has good stuff, but he is not a good pitcher right now. He walks everybody, he gives up a bunch of home runs. Stevenson's not good at present.
No, yeah. And then Wainwright, like I know you don't like believe in like small sample sizes, but his last 10 games, he's pitched 55 innings. He's given up 34 earned runs and 11 home runs. It's just not good.
No, that's not good. I would definitely not have any Wainwright interest today either.
All right, let's talk bats in this game. We've seen a pretty watered down lineup for the Cardinals last night. I expect them to kind of be back to their normal lineup here.
Yeah, and if they are, I would think I would have a little bit more interest in them. It's going to be interesting to see who is back because I mean, Carpenter was out because of like an injury thing. Diaz was out, I think, because of Jose Fernandez. So like, I don't know, if he'll be. I would assume he'll be back today, but it'll be interesting to see what the lineup is like.
Yeah, I'm seeing here Carpenter's dealing with pain in his right ring finger. Like I could actually see him take another day off.
Yeah, so again, it could still be a somewhat watered down lineup, but I mean, if we get a halfway decent lineup here, this is going to be one of the better teams of the day.
They're playing for a playoff spot too, right? I just closed that.
Like yeah, they're in the wild card race. It looks like a game back.
So they need this game. If Carpenter even feels a little bit better, I expect him to be in the lineup.
Yeah. Although, yeah.
All right, let's talk bats here. Cincinnati bats. You're paying a massive price tag for Joey Votto, but I think he's a really interesting tournament play. If you're paying up that much, a lot of people are going to play Ortiz. So I think Votto could see a low ownership here in a good matchup.
Yeah, I could see that, especially if we're buying into the Wainwright struggles. He's definitely not a cash game play, but he could be interesting for GPP for sure.
I'm buying into it. Like we're starting to see it happen again and again and again. I'm not a Wainwright person anymore.
Yeah, no, I really haven't been for much of this year.
Peraza is a guy that I know we both like to use, but it feels like his price is too high.
His price is getting too high, and this is not a good stolen base matchup. Wainwright is very good at preventing them. Yadier Molina, good at preventing them. So this doesn't seem like the spot to use Peraza.
Yeah, and unless Billy Hamilton was playing, he has a massive splits against Molina. Just insane. Adam Duvall coming off of a double banger. Like I said on the podcast yesterday, Siege said Adam Duvall is not a good play because he couldn't hit a beach ball right now. And I said every time he says that, the guy hits a home run. I should have played Duvall because I knew he was going to hit a home run.
He hit two, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Is he still really cheap on FanDuel? Because I could see him being in play there if he's still like 2,300, 2,400 like he's been.
He is 2,700.
Okay, so a little more expensive, but not too bad. So he could be an option there.
Yeah, showing that home run upside that we thought he had all season, and we'll see what happens here. St. Louis side of things, I think all these guys are in play, but I know one guy we're just going to go ahead and just wash with in this game, and it's going to be Piscotty. He's going to be in both of our lineups tomorrow.
3,400. That's a nice price. Yeah, I could see it, I guess.
There's no way you're not playing Piscotty in cash at 3,400.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Well, actually, no, you don't need to play him.
I almost hadn't even noticed him because he was so low. I mean, I would have to think at that price he's going to be one of the stronger plays.
Yeah, like that price tag. There's no reason it should be that cheap ever.
No, they're really not, especially against Stevenson.
And I don't mind Peralta at 3,100.
Yeah, Peralta I'd need to be talked into a little bit more, but I think he's fine. If I think Colton Wong at 27 would be interesting if Carpenter's out again today. If say he gets a spot, gets a chance to lead off or something like that, then he would be interesting too.
All right, let's move on. Oakland at LA. Oh, Nolasco and Mejden. Man, like I love picking on Oakland. I don't know if I can do it here.
No, I don't think this is the spot to pick on Oakland.
Like I could see Nolasco going out and pitching well, though. I really could.
I mean, he can. He's not horrendous. Oakland is not very good. So it's like I don't hate him, but there's just so much pitching today that I would have a little bit of a hard time.
Yeah, if he was in that like 6,000 to 6,800 range, like if he was $1,000 cheaper, I would say that I'd probably use him in this spot.
In a GPP, if he was like 6,000, I could definitely see him being viable. For close to 8, probably not.
And no Mejden, right?
No, definitely not.
Bats in this game, Trout, Chris Davis, move on.
Honestly, I don't think move on. Like Trout's great, Davis is going to be great, but I think you can get some good punts here. I think what's his name, Stephen Vogt, and I think Joey Wendell. They've been hitting 1 and 2. They're both going to hold the platoon advantage against Nolasco. They're both really cheap. Wendell in particular, they fill shallow positions. I like both of them as punts today.
Yeah, I keep looking over Wendell. Siege pointed him out to me today. 2,500 is just cheap for a guy that's going to bat second.
Yeah, and he's not a bad hitter either. He's a pretty solid hitter. So I kind of like Wendell.
All right. We're just going to move on. We don't need to talk a lot about that game. I want to move on, okay? I'm just going to move on. It's my podcast. I do what I want.
All right, fine.
We want to talk about the Dodgers. Like, I'm wearing a Dodgers jersey right now. I'm wearing a Jock Peterson jersey as we record the podcast. That tells you guys something. Dodgers, San Diego Padres, Jose De Leon against Paul Clemens. No. Let's talk bats.
Wait. Hold on. Circle back. You don't have interest in De Leon, really?
No, I have a little interest. 8K is just a little high for me. I'm expecting him to be in the 80 to 85 pitch range, but I think it's pretty good projection. I wish he was cheaper.
Yeah, I wish he was cheaper too, especially if we really think that's going to be if that's going to be the pitch count. If that's going to be the pitch count, then you can't play him. But if he pitches really well, I don't think it's implausible he goes up to like 95. And this is a good matchup for that. I mean, the Padres aren't a very good offense. They're not as exploitable as they used to be. They don't have as many Ks as they used to. But this is still a favorable matchup, and he should definitely get some run support against Clemens.
Yeah, did Kazmir go back on the DL? Or did they just –
I don't – this late in the year, they generally don't put guys on the DL anymore, but I think he's done.
Yeah, because that could mean De Leon is going to be in this rotation going forward for the playoffs, if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's possible. They were kind of trying guys out. They could still look at like Brett Anderson or Brandon McCarthy pitched well on Sunday. I think he'll get one more start this week. So, but De Leon is in the mix, I would think.
Yeah, and like we mentioned when we were talking about Washington, like these two teams are still fighting for that second spot in the National League. Like you don't want to play in that play-in game. Or not in the play-in game, but you don't want to play against one of the better teams.
Now,
I guess they're going to play each other. Okay, let me rephrase that. You want home field advantage when you play the Washington Nationals in the playoffs because that's what it looks like.
Yeah. So is that almost a case against De Leon? Like we saw yesterday with Jaime Garcia. Like he was in for an inning, he struggled, and they yanked him because they had something to play for and they weren't messing around. So like, could that be the case today with De Leon?
But that's been Jaime's that's been his thing for like the last 4 or 5 starts. Like I didn't notice it until Siege pointed out on the podcast yesterday. I was interested in Jaime, and then he pointed that out to me, and it's been like that for like the last 3 or 4 starts. And then De Leon, it's just the thing I'm worried about. Like he dominated San Diego a few starts ago and only threw 86 pitches in that game, but he did put up 25.9 fantasy points.
Yeah, which is a lot of points. If you can get that out of him in a GPP today, you're going to be very happy.
Oh man, Well, the thing is, like, I don't love any of the Padres bats. I love Schimpf, obviously. I like Schimpf every day. Like, if you want upside every day at second base, play Schimpf.
Yeah, I'm always a big fan of Schimpf. I hate that his price is so expensive now on DraftKings. Even on FanDuel, he's a little pricey. But I was playing him every single day, basically, when he was like 2,400, and that was amazing.
Me and you both, my friend. Me and you both. I like the Dodgers
because he was like 2% owned every day.
I like the Dodgers here, but they're so expensive.
That's the problem. They're so expensive, and I don't think they're. I don't even know if they're the top offense today. They're not the top offense today. They're up there, but they're not so far above everyone else that you need to overpay for them.
Yeah, I can see that. I think Justin Turner is one of the best third basemen on the board today, but I'm not paying that price for him.
Yeah, on FanDuel, I like Turner's price a lot. I think he's pretty much a lock and load over there, but on DraftKings for close to 5K, it's too much.
Oh, let's see what their price is over on FanDuel. Let me
36 maybe.
37. Grandal's 32. Get some Adrian Gonzalez at 3K. Yeah, I'm gonna have some Dodgers bats over on FanDuel.
Yeah.
But that's why we play on multiple sites, so you can get your exposure, on different sites. Oh, last game of the night, Colorado, San Francisco, and San Francisco battling with St. Louis and New York Mets for this last these wild card spots. So obviously this game means a lot. Matt Moore against the Colorado team and German Marquez. Is that how? I guess Marquez.
Marquez, I think.
Oh man, these names kill me. First major league start, and he won it, and that was against St. Louis. That was in Coors Field. Pitched 82 pitches in that game. Had some decent stuff. Didn't show a lot of strikeout upside, but wasn't terrible.
Yeah, he's actually a halfway decent pitcher. I mean, he's below average, but he's not awful. He's about average in the strikeout department, so he's an interesting arm. Not necessarily today, but just in general.
Wow, I'm looking at his minor league numbers. Between Double A and Triple A this year, he has a 155 to 29K to walk ratio.
Yeah, he's not a bad pitcher by any means.
Oh man, the Rockies pitching rotation might actually make them a playoff team next year. I hate to say it, but I think it's true.
It's possible, especially if they can get one or two guys to take a step up or even add an arm in free agency or something. They can make some noise.
Yeah, they built that rotation for Coors Field, that's for sure. Like this is the Giants, and it's in San Francisco. He's 4,700. Does that pique your interest at all?
It really doesn't, because it's the Giants. They're in San Francisco, but if I'm going to play a pitcher against the Giants, it's going to be a lefty. They have too many good lefties in the lineup to really consider playing a righty against them, and they just don't strike out against righties. So it's not a matchup that I'd have a lot of interest in.
What about Matt Moore?
Okay, Stevie, earmuffs for a second, okay? Because listeners, now that Stevie can't hear me, Matt Moore is a must-play in cash games today. He is the number 2 that you pair with Chris Sale.
Yeah,
okay, Stevie, you're good.
I think that he's a good play too, and I definitely don't think he's a must-play. He's coming off a really bad start, which makes him even more interesting for me in tournaments, but I'm a little weary here. This game means so much. We were just talking about an early hook. If he gets in trouble, I could see him getting pulled.
It's possible, but he's so cheap, he's talented, and the matchup is so good. Anytime the Rockies are on the road, they're not going to project well because they play half their games in Coors Field. Their numbers are inflated. Their strikeout rates are severely deflated because of the altitude. So you put them on the road, they project to not score a lot of runs, they project to strike out a lot, and then you put them in AT&T Park, it's the biggest park downgrade possible. It's the best park in baseball to the worst. And they face a lefty in Matt Moore. They're not a good team against lefties. Cargo and Dahl and Blackman. Arenado's the only good righty in the entire lineup. So I think Moore is a very strong play today at this price, even though he did struggle a lot in that last outing.
I like the play. I really do. I have no idea where we're going to end up. So it could be on Moore. I think that's definitely an option. I think he's a really solid option. And like you said, you get a Rockies team going from Colorado to San Francisco, and they struggle with left-handed pitching. So, I honestly could see our pitching being a wash here today.
Yeah, and part of it too is price. Like you're gonna have to spend so much on sale. For me, I think you have to spend so much on Ortiz that you need to save some money. And yeah, there's other good options like Tehran or Ian Kennedy or whoever. But when you're getting more at $1,000 discount or a $1,500 discount, I think you take it.
Man, you're going to play David Ortiz against us, and it's going to beat us, and it's going to tilt me so much. Bats in this game. I know we just got done talking about Matt Moore, but DJ LeMahieu, have yourself a season, my friend. Like, I know he's expensive, but DJ LeMahieu's in play for me every day in cash games because he's just not going to not get you a zero.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I guess, where I differ from a lot of people's cash game philosophy. Like, yeah, maybe he's not going to get you a zero, but he's not going to, very rarely, he's going to get you double digits, and he's too expensive for a guy like that. Like, I've rostered LeMahieu like 3 times this year, and it's all been in cores.
All right, Derek, not calling you out, but double digits in 5 of his last 10 games.
Well, there you go. I don't know. LeMahieu is fine. In cores, he's good. But I mean, he's an average hitter basically. He's an average hitter without much power. So maybe he has those games where he has multiple hits and he gets you double-digit points. But probability-wise, I just never think he's a very good play.
All right, Derek, not calling you out again. Average hitter in baseball in Major League is what, 280 something, right? I would say.
I'm not saying batting average. I'm saying like overall. So like WOBA or like whatever your stat of choice is. He's a well above average batting average hitter. He's a really good one for batting average.
Any interest in Nolan Arenado here if you're not playing more?
Not really. He's a little too expensive. I don't think it's a great matchup. I mean, yeah, you put Arenado against a lefty. He's always going to have some appeal, but I think there's too many better spots today.
Oh, have me some Tom Murphy, baby. 2,200. Love this price.
That's a great price for him. I've played Murphy quite a bit. I don't love the matchup here, but I mean that's a decent punt there.
All right, I already see how we're countering your Matt Moore, baby. Give me some Tom Murphy. Bats on the Giants side of things here. Nothing really piques my interest. I just don't expect this game to be high scoring.
No, I don't really expect it to be either. I don't see a whole lot of values here. I mean,
Hunter Pence, 3,400. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd maybe be the one guy.
Yeah, outside of Pence, though, I'm not seeing a ton of value. Crawford, always good value at 3,500. I just worry about him being 100%.
Yeah, same here.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk some home runs and no Coors Field on the slate, so we don't even have to worry about that. So I'll let you bat leadoff here.
All right, so I think it's pretty obvious who my number 1 pick is.
I've already wrote him down.
It's David Ortiz.
Yeah. I wrote that down. Don't worry, buddy. I got that for you. I feel like everybody's trolling me. Last week of baseball, I get to talk about Ortiz every day. And, yeah, I'm going to go E5 with my first one. I love this spot for Edwin.
I like Edwin here, too. I'm going to go Chris Davis with a K.
Oh, man, I like that one. Where'd that come from? That's not up your alley.
Why not? I love Chris Davis. He's the most underrated power hitter in all of baseball.
Can he like 3 home runs to end this and tie us up 2-2?
I played him in my lineup tonight, so I'd be fine with that.
Man, where do I want to go? I want to go to Detroit, and I'll go to my favorite Detroit power bat, JD Martinez.
All right. I'm gonna go with Chris Carter.
And I'm going to stay to that game, and I'm going to mention a guy that I mentioned earlier that I really like in the spot. Jonathan Villar is my last pick.
I like Villar a lot today, and I think, like you said, he could actually be a sneaky home run call.
Yeah. All right, I have to knock off a lot of pitchers here. At the end of the day, if you had to pick one pitcher not to score necessarily the most points, but to pick up a win at the end of the day, and it can't be Scherzer, Sale, Syndergaard, Price, Verlander, who do you have?
It's going to be Matt Moore.
I was kind of hoping that that's who you were going to pick. I figured that's who you were going to pick. I can't disagree with that. Mine, man, I hate this pick, but I really do think he picks up a win. I'm going to go Ricky Nolasco.
Oh, Ricky, all right. I like that call too.
I'm kind of curious if the line's out now because I want to see what the line is in that game. Oh, it is. What do you think the line is in that LA game?
Who do we have? Ricky Nolasco against
Daniel Medjden.
I don't know. I would think negative 160.
It's only 135. I'm going to watch that line today.
Okay, interesting.
Matt Moore, 195, and Adam Wainwright, a minus 220. Please let him be popular today.
Oh my God, if he's popular, that would be amazing.
All right, that's going to do it here. Before we get out of here, I want to mention Daily Marketplace got announced this weekend, and you can now get Derek's The Bat Projection System for $1.99 a day. So you don't have to pay for the rest of the season. You can just pick it up and pick it up when you're playing baseball.
And today is a good day for that. Free Money Tuesday.
Is it still Free Money Tuesday with everything ending on Sunday now?
I mean, the past few weeks, like it seems like since football started, it's free money Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I don't know. Maybe that's just my perception, but it seems like all 3 days after football have been great.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And there's another package on that marketplace. If you want to win money in NASCAR, just click that button next to the name that says Stevie's NASCAR package. And I guarantee if you bought it this past weekend, you made money because my picks destroyed this past weekend. Pat on my back for myself. I don't even care. 1 for 1, baby. 1 for 1. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Derek?
No, just be sure to tune in tonight as me and Dean finish off this series and spank us some Team Crazy.
Yeah, probably going to happen. All right, that's going to do it here for the Tuesday edition. We'll be back tomorrow. Good luck in your contest, and we'll see you then.